One thing I wanted to share with you guys is this issue of timing. If you were with us in the Wednesday night class when we talked about Esther last fall, we really dug into the first chapter of Esther and going into the second, and how Xerxes was this tyrant king. He held a 6-month basically war party to show off all of his wealth and all of his war machines before eventually going to battle with the Greeks. And it's in that first chapter that we see King Xerxes wanting to show off Queen Vashti. The pinnacle of what he thought his worth was her beauty. Now, different commentators say that he asked her to come with her crown on to show her off, and others say that he asked her to come with only her crown on. Whichever way that was, it was very improper. Vashti, according to some historians, was of Babylonian descent and was royalty there, so she said absolutely not, and he got rid of her, and then he went to war. When he came back, when he was missing her, his advisors decided they didn't want her back, so he was to have this first this quote-unquote beauty pageant. But I think it's evident it wasn't any kind of a beauty pageant. It was basically human trafficking. It was taking all of these young girls from around the kingdom, and it was a huge kingdom at that time, from Turkey all the way down to modern day Ethiopia and up through almost all the way to Greece. Stole all of these girls, probably pretty young, and then over the course of a year or two. Basically took each one into his bed and used that to decide which one was going to be his queen. So when we pick up the story of Esther, we don't see that she's in this really great place. This is a time of tremendous difficulty for her. She's an orphan. Both of her parents are dead, and she's being raised by her uncle. And then she's taken away to this contest per se at the palace. But in God's providence, He places her in a position of some kind of authority in the palace there. And when Haman talks King Xerxes into killing all of the Jews because of his hatred toward Mordecai, Esther didn't know what to do. And Mordecai said those words that I know we have all heard in so many Sunday school lessons, and that is, maybe you're there for such a time as this. And I think that right now, given the current climate in our world and in our country and in our cities, I want you guys to consider that you are in a place right now. You are where you live. You are in this time in our history for such a time as this. And now it's up to you to dig into God's Word and to see what He would say why you're here for this time. Maybe it's staying at home praying for our country. Maybe this is a great call to prayer for all Christians to be praying for our country and our world right now. Maybe you're here to be out and deliver meals to those people that just can't get out and do that. Maybe you're a medical professional or a first responder, and you are here right now just specifically for this. You have unique giftings and unique trainings so that you are able to minister to our communities in a way that only you could through the power of the Holy Spirit. But I think regardless of where your place is, I think the important thing is to remember that we are all right now called to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to reach out to a scared country, a scared community, and to bring them a message of peace. Just something to remember, the outbreak of this did not catch God by surprise. He is not surprised by what's going on. So rest easy knowing that our hope is not in anything that we see on the news. Our hope is not coming from any press conference that we watch. Our hope is in Jesus Christ. And all we have to do is believe in Him, and we have eternal, everlasting life. Right now is just a perfect opportunity for you to share that hope and that calm and that peace to a lost world. Now, we've talked about timing, but I think we can also consider perspective. I think when we look at what's going on in the world right now, we as Christians have a unique perspective and one that maybe the world is reaching out and longing for. This does remind me a lot of Elijah at Mount Carmel. For those of you that aren't familiar with the text, we find that in 1 Kings chapter 18, where there's this epic showdown. There's this God battle that's going to happen between the prophets or Baal, the pagan god of the people there, and then of the one true God, the God of the Israelites, the God of Isaac and Abraham and Jacob, the one true God. And Elijah meets them and says, "Tell you what, we're going to have this battle. You make an altar, build it up with whatever you want to, put an ox or a bull on it, and I'll do the same thing. And we'll see which God answers." And he lets them go first, and so they build this altar and they put the ox on it, and they're pleading with their God to consume it, and nothing's happening. And tell you what, let's just pick that up. It's 1 Kings 18, verse 26. "Then they took the ox which was given them, and they prepared it, and called out on the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, 'O Baal, answer us.' But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they leaped about the altar which they made. It came about noon, and Elijah mocked them." He's like serious trash talking here. He's like, "Come out with a loud voice, for he's a god. Either he's occupied or gone aside, or he's on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep. He's sleeping and needs to be awakened." So they cried out with a loud voice and cut themselves according to their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out on them. When midday was past, they raved until the time of the offering or the evening sacrifice, but there was no voice. No one answered. No one paid attention. And man, I couldn't help but think, man, we don't have a God like that. Our God, the one true God, the God Jehovah is not like that. He is always listening. He desires communication. And the perspective here, I think, is that when we want to talk to God, He's ready to listen. He cares for us. He desires that communication from us. He wants us to know Him. He wants us to trust Him. And especially when everything in the world looks bonkers around us, man, that's the time then we can really show what our faith is built on, and that is trust and faith in God. Our hope is not in anything here. It's not in any press conference that we see. It's where our hope is in Jesus Christ. One of my mentors tells me that culture that has really changed since the 50s and the 60s. He said the society has really exchanged the prophet and the preacher with the professor and the philosopher. And so I think that this is just this unique opportunity for us as Christians to really have an answer to the world's panic. And that is, the answer is calm and trust. Certainly we have a brain, and we want to do what's right. We want to we don't want panic. We don't want all of this horrible stuff that's going on. But at the same time, we also have faith, and we have trust, and we have hope in Jesus Christ. Maybe like Esther, we're all here for such a time as this. Maybe that's another thing that we can do is show calm, show restraint, show peace. Maybe now is when we can share that unlike those prophets of Baal, we have unlimited access to the Creator of the universe who wants us to talk with Him. And when we desire an audience with Him, we get unlimited time. We don't just get to be worked into a schedule. We actually get to spend as much time with Him as we want to. And guess what we can do? We can open up our Bible and hear what He has to say back to us, because the Bible is His Word. Imagine if you took this news, this hope, this peace, this calm, this countenance, and then you were to share that with people that may be delivering food to your house. Maybe you were to share that on your Facebook or your social media accounts. Maybe you would share that with a family member who doesn't know the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, and you were to share that with them. I think this is an opportunity for us to really show what we're made of, and to show that what we talk about and what we preach and what we think is also what we can practice. You know, we think about timing and we think about perspective, but the other thing we can think about is opportunity. John Eldredge writes in his book Wild at Heart about how guys and girls are different. And I think that's really a neat thing to think about. When God created man and woman, He created all of us in His image. But what John Eldredge points out is that men got that wild side of God. C.S. Lewis wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, and in his book, the figure of Jesus is actually this character that's a lion called Aslan. And C.S. Lewis wrote frequently through the books that when they referred to Aslan, they always said, he's not a tame lion. And that's kind of the aspect of God that guys got, that outside wild part. But girls got a part that's equally as important, and it's that talk to me, share your cares with me, communicate with me. And I think that sometimes that can really cause some tension in relationships with guys and girls, because girls want to talk. And sometimes guys don't appreciate that. But when we see that is a part of God that is put inside of a girl, man, that just really changes your perspective of communication. But what I want you to think about is that in this time where we are at home, where we're together in small spaces, the first thing I want to remind you is that you need to be remembering to talk to God. Remember, He put that desire to talk into girls, but that's a part of Him. He desires all of us to talk with Him and share with Him. Speak it out loud. If you're home, go outside, get somewhere alone, and actually just talk to God. It's amazing how much that just makes you feel like you are in communication with Him. And hey, guess what? Crack a Bible open and see what He has to say to you, because that's His Word. Secondly, remember to talk to each other. Man, rekindle that fire of desire that you had when you were dating your spouse. Actually put that to work now. Talk, get to know each other. Time equals closeness. And the more time you spend together and the more time you spend communicating, the closer you'll be. Talk to your kids. Man, talk, communicate. Let them know who you are. Teach them. Spend time with them. And finally, make sure that you're communicating with your church family. Whether it's on a Zoom thing over the weekend, or whether it's on a group text or a WebEx meeting during your Sunday school time while we're not able to meet together. Man, communicate. Let people know what's going on in your life. Give them prayer requests for you so that they can pray for you. And you do the same to them. And right now is definitely just an amazing time to make sure that we are doing this communication thing well. Right now you turn on the news or you turn on the TV and you see all of these people being interviewed, and they always end with this, hey, we got this. Whatever's going on in the world with the illnesses and maybe you're having to shelter in place, stay at home, but we've got this. And I couldn't help but think, man, I feel a whole lot better knowing that God's got this. He's got this. This hasn't surprised Him. It didn't sneak up on Him. It didn't happen while He was out playing golf. He knows exactly what's going on. He holds the world in His hands. And while we don't know why, the why about a lot of things on this earth while we're here, we sure do know the Creator of the universe is actively participating, is actively operating in this world, and has a desire for each person to get to know Him. So right now, use this time, just like Esther, maybe like Esther, that we're here for such a time as this. Maybe right now is a time for us to share that perspective of what's going on in the world and our calm and our peace that passes understanding in the midst of chaos and crisis. And finally, use this opportunity to communicate, to spend time with each other, talking and getting to know each other better, and making plans and just being together. I want you to know that I'm praying for each one of you. If there's anything that I can do to help you guys out, please just let me know. I love you, and I can't wait to see you soon.